After four-star swingman Baboucarr Ann's commitment to Greg Gard in Wisconsin, I'm going to tell you why 2027 just might be the best recruiting class in Wisconsin history. Let's go. Scary Alvarez is back, and we got a fun one today for you. You had no doubt, if you're listening to this show, you know that Wisconsin got another big-time commitment in the 2027 basketball recruiting class. Baboucarr Ann, Maple Grove High School in suburban Minneapolis, 6'5", 180 swingman. Could end up being, it's going to be between him and Brown, obviously, the highest-ranked Wisconsin recruit in this class. But this guy is the number one player in Minnesota. He is number 63 in the country in the 247 composite. He is a consensus four-star recruit. And if there's ever anyone who, has momentum as far as shooting upward in the rankings, it is this guy. I've said this before. I'm not the kind of guy you're going to go to who's going to break down the film and tell you all the ins and outs of a player. But I can tell you this much. I've watched basketball in my life where when I watched Ann's film, I'd done it a little bit before the commitment when it was looking likelier that he was going to be going Wisconsin's way, but I did after he committed today. And he's not a man among boys. He looks like an NBA player among boys. And that's trying not to delve into hyperbole here, but so many aspects of his game for someone who still has a senior year left to play in high school looked unbelievably developed. One of those guys, you take one element out of what he brings, you don't shut him down. He'll just go to something else. And some of these highlights, and these are, suburban Minneapolis and Minneapolis in general, pretty good basketball guys. I mean, I think it would argue it's better than Milwaukee. I mean, I'm not going to go one way or the other here, but it's a real nice area, which obviously Wisconsin has over the years mined well, and Greg Gard strikes again. So this was a big one. I feel really good about this. The offer list is pretty solid whenever you see an Iowa State on there. Obviously, the home state Minnesota Gophers were in the mix, as well as a number of other high major teams. But Wisconsin just closed it down. They had him on campus fairly recently, I think a couple weeks back. And you just had the vibes that Greg Gard was going to close this one out. Certainly bringing a super talented player from the Twin Cities is nothing new for Greg Gard. But one thing that is new is pairing that consensus four-star big-time player from the Twin Cities with a four-star big-time player from Wisconsin. And that's, you can't just break it down for one of these recruits. You got to look at the whole class. But a couple weeks ago, Jalen Brown, 6'4" combo guard. He's almost 200 pounds. Very athletic guy. He also is a four-star everywhere. One of the top players in a very nice 2027 state of Wisconsin class out of Wauwatosa. So it's the Milwaukee area. Just the kind of recruit that, for whatever reason, we don't need to get into the whys and hows and what's here. Greg Gard just simply hasn't landed guys like this from the state of Wisconsin. So, I'm going to get into a little bit of this guy too. I mean, he's smooth. He's good with the ball in his hands. He's good with the ball outside his hands. Maybe he's a point guard. Maybe he's a shooting guard. Maybe he does a little bit of both. But like Ann, Brown is going to come in next year. He also has a senior of high school ball to play, and he is going to play right away. I mean, there's no question about this. I can say this. I don't care what the portal class looks like this year, how people develop, and hopefully there will be a lot of development from people that are already in those rooms. It'll be a nice problem to have for Greg Gard. But Ann and Brown sounds like a law firm. Those guys are going to play immediately in the 27-28 season for the Badgers. I'm telling you, that is just going to happen. So Yeah, besides I think it's y'all can kind of close the circle on why this is such a big deal for Greg Gard to have this kind of prep recruiting, and not just from Minnesota as well as Wisconsin. But I'm looking right now at the 247 class of 27 rankings, and Wisconsin is third, not third in the state of Wisconsin, not third in the Big Ten, third in college basketball. Okay? We all know that when the class signs, Wisconsin is unlikely to remain that high. That's just a fact because a lot of these other blue bloods haven't filled their classes out. But this is going to be, in all likelihood, Greg Gard's highest ranked class in his now 12 recruiting classes with Wisconsin. That matters. It matters. I mean, we talked about defending Gard for some of the criticisms about his high school recruiting, and it's been a little hit or miss here and there. He's become a developmental program as much as anything. So even if the guy isn't a 4-star at a high school, he still may end up being a really productive, good player. And Gard's doing the same thing with the Porter class. But pairing Ann with Brown with a sprinkle of Jack Thelen, and I don't want to ignore this guy. And by the way, that's not a different Maple Grove High School that the 2027 center commit for Wisconsin, Thelen, is from. That's Ann's teammate. But I've talked to a few guys who are in the know, and this wasn't like they got Ann because they got Thelen. They probably had an inkling to look more into Thelen because they were looking so closely at Ann. Just wonderful. So it's Wisconsin's going to have 40% of that team's starting lineup in its recruiting class. Does this mean that Greg Gard is done for the 2027 cycle when you got a Kager Kneppel out there and some other guys that still have offered? I don't know, but if I'm going to guess, I think they probably are. You're never going to say no to someone who says yes, who's a big-time recruit. But if you had sort of a gun to my head, and well, don't do that, first of all. That wouldn't be necessary. This is just a podcast. And by the way, if you were listening this long, I didn't say this at the top of the show, but throw old Scary a like and a subscription. That always helps. The algos for these things are fickle like Luke, and every little bit helps. But yeah, if you were asking me if I thought that Gard was done, given the number of guys they have in the program already who are developing, the size of the various classes, I think a 3-guy 2027 class is probably going to be it. Again, I'm not in that recruiting room, and Gard might be like, yeah, you're crazy. We're bringing 4 guys in. And don't be shocked if Gard does that. I'm just telling you, I think they're probably done. But anyway, just wanted to get this out there. Had some good shows on this and went into some depth. Of course, lockdown is always great. But Baboucarr on Maple Grove High School, suburban Minneapolis, 6'5", 180, swingman. Is he a 2? Is he a 3? Probably a 3. But the way he looks on film, I alluded to this earlier, this guy can play probably at least 2 positions, and more importantly, he can defend at least 2 positions, maybe 3. I mean, he has the look of the guy. And again, I'm not some savant breaking down high school basketball film, but the fact that I can tell you this guy's that good says everything you need to say about it. This isn't nuance. This isn't the drafting for potential, although there is potential associated with a recruit like this. He is really good, and his senior year is going to be outstanding. There's little reason to believe he's not going to be remaining the number 1 recruit in the state of Minnesota. He'll be the Mr. Basketball in all likelihood. Just a fantastic job by Greg Gard and his recruiting guys. Wonderful stuff. And, as I noted, you're pairing this with a combo guard in Jalen Brown, and then you're sprinkling in a development. He's got a couple of developmental big. That sounds like, look, this guy's a legitimate, solid 3-star center in Thelen. But this recruiting class, to get back to my initial theme, I would not be a bit surprised if, when all is said and done, this ends up being Guard's best class. It's certainly going to be his best class by way of rankings. Could be his best class in terms of vibes or in terms of the geography when you're getting a star player out of the Twin Cities and you're also getting a star player out of Milwaukee. And this is no diss to any of the other areas that Greg Gard has had success in recruiting. But you just love to see this because that has kind of been his Achilles heel, is getting a couple of really highly regarded players in the same class and also getting a player of a four-star caliber player out of Milwaukee. So anyway, let me know what you think. But Greg Gard is cooking, guys, and Scary Alvarez is out.